Arcana, how you doing, Nick? What's going on with you, man?
You know what's going on with me is someone made me watch this backcountry road movie, and all of a sudden now I just don't want to take a wrong turn no more.
Are you saying that you've been watching the Wrong Turn series? I'm trying to decipher. I don't speak whatever language that you're speaking. Are you saying you've been marathoning the Wrong Turn movies? Is that what you're saying?
Well, isn't that what we're doing today?
No, we're doing the Curse of Chucky. We're in the smack dab in the middle, I guess, towards the back end now of the Child's Play series. We only got 2 to go: Curse and Cult. Where in the hell did you
Well,
find time to watch Wrong Turn?
to be fair, Curse is kind of the same thing. They are in the backwoods. There's like no one around.
Hey, this
It's
is
just
the nicest.
road.
This is the nicest damn house in the backwoods of any backwoods I've ever seen. All right, this thing's a freaking mansion they have back here.
Nicest. It looks like it hasn't been touched on in a few years. Almost like David Kirshner just found this random house all broken and beaten up and said, let's use it.
Well, the inside, believe it or not, this may blow your mind. The inside interior is actually not a real house. It's a set. It's a set they built. So it's a 2-level set they built to customize it, but it's not a real house. It's actually
That
a
doesn't
set.
surprise me at all. Because the
Yeah,
inside
and there's
does
a lot
not
of
feel like the same house.
well, the entire outside and the roads and everything like that, it's all CGI. So none of that's real. So
So much.
I guess okay, this is 2013, so I guess this is the start of where like movies started using CGI very, very liberally. Like that scene with the preacher where he has the soup and the bead of sweat that comes down his forehead.
Mhm.
That's CGI sweat coming down his forehead. That's not real sweat. That's CGI sweat.
Oh,
It's
come on.
like okay, well now they can do anything. So
Why didn't they just give the guy some extremely hot soup?
I guess it's true. I mean, I guess it's one thing to cry on cue, but to sweat on cue, that is kind of
Just give him
hard to pull
really
off.
hot
Like, all right,
soup.
we yeah, but how can you can't predict that I know a one bead of sweat's gonna come down his forehead. You could like just plant some kind of water device in his hair where it drips down water, but I guess CGI probably is the easier way to do it. So I
Or
can't
just
be
do
too mad.
or when you're doing the close up, you just have someone very slowly pouring water over his head.
I know why you wouldn't want to live there because there's probably no Chinese food place in the vicinity that you can Uber Eats from. So you'd have to probably drive a long way to get to your General Tso's.
No Chinese, no pizza. What am I going to do? Call 911? Be like, 911, what's your emergency? I need some pizza.
It's one of those places you drive 40 miles just to see one gas station. You go inside, maybe there's some stale chips there, but probably nothing food-wise that's appetizing.
No, probably not. The problem is that's probably the place you go for pizza.
Well, listen, who needs pizza when you can have poisonous soup that's gonna kill you?
I mean, it technically wasn't the poison that killed him. It just helped.
Curse of Chucky came out in 2013, a full 9 years after Seed of Chucky, which begs the question again, why the long break once again? This series is known for having long breaks in between sometimes. You saw a huge 7-year gap between part 3 and Bride of Chucky. You had a 6-year gap between Bride and Seed, and now you got a 9-year gap here between Seed and Curse.
I know why. Damien
Okay.
Leone wanted it. Or not Damien Leone. Fuck me.
What was that?
I've just been sitting there reading up on some Terrifier stuff. So, okay. What is it? David Kirshner, right?
Yeah.
And what's bad is I
Well,
even said it earlier.
yeah, but Don Mancini, I would say, is probably
That's it.
your
Thank you.
main guy here. Yeah.
Okay. The reason is Don Mancini wanted to make sure that these movies were perfect.
I feel like you said it last episode, and it's
I
just
did.
I don't know why you're sticking with that.
It's the only thing I can guess. I mean, why take 9 years to make a movie?
Well, Seed of Chucky actually, unfortunately, did not do well at the box office or with fans or critics. It was a very polarizing movie. People have come around on it. Now, I think people, not to say it overall has a great thing now, but more people like it, I think, than back then. So the other thing that was Child's Play, as we've kind of gone through it, it always kind of it's not a victim of what's going on in the horror genre, but it always kind of follows what's going on in the genre. So after Seed of Chucky, what became popular in the horror world, what became popular in the world of horror was, if you remember that time period, like 2005, 2006, what was going on? Remakes. Remakes. You remember that terrible 5 to 10 year period where Platinum Dunes was going all in with every single thing was a remake? Friday 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, Halloween, Rob Zombie. There were so many remakes in that time period. So, of course, after Sea of Chucky didn't do quite well, they were like, hey, let's remake Child's Play. So, from like 2004 to 2010-ish, the focus was on doing a remake. But there were some rights issues because if you remember correctly, also MGM actually still owns the rights to the first one. So Universal had picked up the series starting with part 2, but there's always been kind of a rights thing with the first one being kind of separate from the other one. That's why recently you saw like they were able to remake Child's Play without having nothing to do with everything else going on with Chucky. So the rights never really came together to do a remake. But then Don Mancini was like, all right, well, let's just do like a sequel. But the Universal did not want to finance a sequel. They were like, okay, that original timeline is done. You killed the franchise with Seed of Chucky. We don't want to do like a remake. So
they ended Seed of Chucky with Chucky attacking Glenn.
I know. I mean, the audience was dying to know what happened.
Yeah, did Glenn survive? Did he pee his pants again?
These are the questions we need answers to, man. I mean, I don't, so
he's probably still pissing his pants.
There was only one way to progress forward with the Child's Play series because Universal didn't want to do a full-blown sequel, but Mancini was like, hey, I want to do something where it's in the timeline, but it's kind of rebooting the franchise.
He put it in Pornhub.
No, that was his backup plan, but thankfully he didn't get to that point where he had to do that. What happened was Universal had a home video division, 1440 Entertainment, I believe it's called.
Mm-hmm.
So basically the idea was, okay, you can do a Chucky movie, but we're going to slash the budget and it's going to go direct to video. Now, we know with horror franchise, when you go direct to video, sometimes it's a death sentence. Sometimes the quality drops off dramatically. We've seen like the Hellraiser series. We've seen, I can only assume that some of those Wrong Turn sequels aren't as good.
I mean, I can give you a quick play-by-play.
I mean, Tremors Part 5, The Return of Aftershocks. I mean, I'm pretty sure it's probably shockingly bad, I'm guessing.
First off, Part 5 was not Return of Aftershocks. I don't remember what it was called, but it was not called Return of Aftershocks.
It was something with the word Aftershocks, all right?
Nope. Part 5 is the one where they go to Africa and fight a stone-encased graboid. Okay? Get it right.
Do they explain what happened to Bert's wife?
She left in Part 2.
What?
Part 2, she left.
They were the perfect gun-toting maniac couple. Like, how did they break up? They were perfect for each other.
Well, easy. Reba got a better career opportunity.
Man, that makes me hesitant to even watch Part 2 if they're not going to be together, shooting up graboids and saying, you broke into the wrong damn rec room. If I can't hear that line, man, I don't know.
Well, they're not even in the rec room anymore. They're in a different county.
Why would you leave a town called Perfection? It's already perfect. Well, where else could you go that's going to top Perfection?
Because Perfection is actually the second name. If you've watched the movies, you find out in the 4th movie, the name used to be Imperfection.
What?
Yep.
What the hell is this canon they're adding? You know what? I'm sticking with the first one. I'm good with that. I'm good with the first movie. I don't need the Return of Aftershocks and the continued Aftershocks and Tremors 9, more Aftershocks. Guess what?
Nah, I don't think they're making any more Tremors after 7.
Yeah, so there was only one way to do Child's Play, was to cut the budget and go direct to video, which Don Mancini was like, how much cutting the budget? Because Seed of Chucky had a budget of $12 million. Curse of Chucky comes in with still a $5 million budget, which is a lot less than Seed. I mean, obviously 12 versus 5.
Still enough to make a good horror movie if you do it right.
Well, the hallmarks of a low budget horror movie are like, okay, you take one setting. You're obviously not going to be like in the city, different settings, but by having it take place in one house, for the most part, you can control the budget, just build one nice set inside the house. And so he did it pretty smartly in terms of like, okay, I can with this budget. And then also, I think there's really no name actors either. So budget wise, you don't have to pay anybody, I think, on the acting front. Now, in terms of we're gonna have obviously the big thing is we're gonna have Brad Dourif's daughter, Fiona Dourif,
Yes.
as our main protagonist, which she did not necessarily there was no real nepotism here. She actually had to audition and everything like that. Um
Where did you read
Brad
this, sir?
well, the idea was they were looking for somebody and like Brad was like, hey, you should look at, my daughter. She's recently been acting. And Don Mancini didn't know that she was like an actress, so he looked into some of her stuff and was like, "Oh yeah, okay, she can probably do this." And then she auditioned and ended up being really good for the role. So maybe there was some nepotism built in terms of just like, hey, Brad Dorff had to mention like, "Hey, my daughter's acting," but I mean, she does a great job here. So obviously, she was the right fit for the role and everything.
I will say Fiona looks so much like her father. It's not even funny.
Yeah, it's so funny. Like once you hear that she's Brad Dorff's daughter, then you're like, "Oh, I do see the resemblance for sure."
Yeah, I don't even think you need to hear that. You just see him and see her, and they put them side by side. It's like, did she even have a mom?
Right. So Don Mancini is back, of course, as the writer and director here now, and pretty much going forward with this, even with Colt, he's pretty much writing and directing all the movies now. Um, I gotta say, man, that the movie looks good, it sounds good, the score is great. It doesn't feel low budget. It feels like a movie that should have went to theaters. I'm surprised after they made the movie that, and upon watching and the good feedback they got from audiences early on, that they didn't pivot to actually having being a theatrical release.
And
Because this movie could have came to theaters and probably could have done pretty well.
well, I mean, I know why it did well because Don Mancini obviously is it Mancini or Mancini?
I don't know. I want to say Mancini, but Mancini makes sense too. So I don't know.
So I guess he's Italian. Should we be doing like one of these numbers?
Hey, Mortabella, I'm Don Mancini.
No, but
I'm going to the Olive Garden later today. That's a true
again,
story.
it's with a low budget, you can still make an extremely good horror movie if you know what you're doing.
If you don't know what you're doing,
It
you can
looks
go in
like
a
shit.
really bad you can go in a really bad direction. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um.
Nightmare on Elm Street remake.
Oh God. And that was a high budget too, and it was still terrible. So
Yeah.
the less said about that, the better. Yeah. So they made the movie. Comes out direct to video 2013 October 2013. Uh, does very well. Makes a couple $1 million just in the home video market. Back then, obviously, DVDs were a much bigger thing than they are now. Unfortunately, everything is streaming now. So, um, but Mancini wanted to also he wanted to return the movie back to its sort of horror roots. He didn't want to dig into the more comedic side of the franchise. Obviously, Seed of Chucky went into like as about as comedic as you could be. I mean, that went to like straight Freddy's Dead territory, which we liked. I mean, we were okay with it, but I think a lot of fans were like, okay, this is too much comedy. They wanted to kind of go back to them. A lot of people are fans of like the first one, and the second one also I think was probably that good mix of like there's still some comedy, but Seed of Chucky was a bridge too far for a lot of the audience, a lot of the franchise fans. So this restores it back to its sort of horror roots. Now the other interesting thing is that in the marketing of it, nobody really knew like, is this a sequel? Is this a remake? Like we don't know because if you think about how the movie opens up, we just get like the Chucky dolls delivered and everything like that, but we really don't know like, is this the same timeline? Is this a sequel? Who are these people? It's the movie does a good job of like it's really like a mystery in the first half of the movie. Like we really, if you didn't know like the story, just watching, you're like, huh? Now there was one article that came out before the movie that I guess that was guessing. They were like, they said in the article that the movie takes place between part 3 and Bride of Chucky. So some of the audience going in thought that like, oh, this is like a sequel from after part 3, but before Bride of Chucky, which wouldn't really make sense.
No, it wouldn't.
But yeah,
Especially,
nobody knew what the hell was going on here. So,
but we do because we're here to talk about it.
well, because we've seen the movie, yeah. So.
Yeah.
What do you think about Chucky's look? The
So
not the second half of the movie Chucky, but the restored, fresh face, good guy doll.
it actually creeped me out compared to the original from the very first movie Chucky, because this Chucky, his eyes were like wide open. He had buck tooth, just like
Yeah.
he was downright creepy in this, and I'm just thinking, no self-respecting parent is going to get their child that doll.
Hell no. I've always thought the good guy doll, even from the first one, I always thought it was like a creepy looking doll. It just
See,
looks scary.
in the first movie, I could get behind why. I mean, it
Mhm.
wasn't all that creepy per se. It's except for the fact that it's about as tall as a 6-year-old.
Right. Yeah.
Now all of a sudden, this one, I'm just like, no.
Yeah. And even like the opening sequence where the mom dies and they cut to the Chucky doll sitting there, even the close up there, it's kind of creepy because like you keep expecting Chucky to like
Wink at
react,
the camera.
but he's he's really disciplined in the first half of the movie about like not breaking character. Like even when nobody's around and there's no reason for him not to like be like reacting, like I'm talking about like the opening sequence, like he's still like not breaking character. He's really like set on not revealing himself. And the movie, I didn't think it'd be possible to make Chucky creepy again or scary again. After Steve Chucky was like, whoa, I don't know if you can put the toothpaste back in that thing because like it's too goofy. But the first half of the movie does a good job of making this again like feel like a horror movie and not like goofy Chucky. So I gotta give good props to Mancini.
Oh yeah, and I kind of wish, because again, everyone who's seen this movie knows what's going on. We already know that Chucky's alive. Because who went and saw this movie and never seen the other 5 movies?
Right.
So there is really no point in keeping Chucky as a mystery. Maybe the intentions behind what he's doing a mystery you can keep, but because I feel like the if we would have seen his interaction with the mom, it would have been a little bit something could have actually happened that would have made the movie kind of pop even more for me.
I don't know. I kind of like it. I like the mystery part of it because I think you're right. We know as audience know that we know Chucky is alive and is going to kill people, but obviously the characters don't know that. So it's all about like the mystery of like, okay, why is he like not reacting, and when are we going to get to the moment where he does sort of come alive? I think it's kind of like it. It's going back to the first movie. The first movie also did a good job in the first half of the first movie of him not really coming alive. I think it's a
Well,
way to try to make him like a little bit scary again. As soon as he starts talking and stuff, you do lose some of the horror once he starts like being his Chucky self. So I'm okay with it. There's a lot of suspense in the first half of the movie, which I like. It feels like a slow build, a slow burn horror, which is not usual for Chucky movies.
speaking
Uh,
of slow build, let's slowly get introduced to our characters.
well, we talked about Fiona Dorff. She's playing Nika, who
She's
is
bound
a
to a wheelchair.
paraplegic. Yep. And
Her
she flirts with the delivery guy, and we get a perspective maybe that she's not too happy about her current living situation, her life.
Well, let's be
Um,
fair. The delivery guy was flirting with her. She was just being awkward because at that point, her character's supposed to not have really interacted with a guy in a while. It's like, was he flirting with me?
well, yeah, and sadly, her mom completely discourages her completely, and just like is like, nope, like it's like, well, okay,
Yeah.
well,
See, at that point, it's like, well, whatever happens to the mom, she kind of deserves it for treating her kid like shit.
I don't know. I mean, once we find out the backstory on the mom and all that, I almost have to sympathize with the entire family just for like the level of like craziness of what's happened to their family.
Well,
Um,
to be fair, when we get the backstory, there's something I kind of wish would have happened instead of what happened. But we'll get to that
mm,
when we get to the backstory. But then we get, Barbara comes in with Father Frank.
yep. So Barbara is the older sister who wants to sell the house now that the mom has died. She wants to make a profit by selling the
Yep.
house and putting Nika into a home, an assistance home.
Yeah, well, it's mostly because Barbara has run out of money. She has no more money. She's the rich beauty queen that needs money because otherwise her daughter Alice is going to end up in public school.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really sympathize when you have money to hire a nanny and everything like that. So
400 a week, nonetheless.
it's like I can see why you're broke because probably your spending's out of control. But that's neither here nor there. I do think that we immediately get a sign with the husband kind of showing up separately with the nanny. It's kind of like I already had a feeling like something was going on with their marriage where it wasn't like a happy marriage. So
And
although
speaking of,
where they go with like what they do with that is actually an interesting twist that I wasn't expecting. So
well, speaking of husband and nanny, we get Ian, the husband, and we get Jill, the nanny. Jill
yep,
looks a little too hot to not be sleeping with one of these two characters.
I knew it was coming. I didn't know which one, and I was surprised by which one. Well, let's see. So then we talked about Alice. I think that's
Hmm.
pretty
That's
much
our
our
cast.
characters.
Yep, that's
Yeah,
our
it's good.
cast.
It's gonna be a small group, and Nika's gonna make soup for everybody,
Chili,
or chili,
chili, and you know what? Remember,
chili and soup.
the is
Yeah.
oregano. So
Ah,
she's
okay.
making Italian vegetarian chili
With oregano.
with oregano. Well, that's why I said Italian.
See, I can't keep quite harping about this, but I would eat the chili and be like, all right, now where's the real dinner? What's the that was a good appetizer. Where's the main course?
Nope,
I
that's the
don't see
dinner. Do you need more? It's hearty enough,
chili
as
is a
per
side
Ian says.
chili chili is a side dish. It is not a main course.
Where is my hot dog?
I was like, can I get a hot dog with this? Uh but there's again, this is a great scene because a lot of suspense with the idea of we know Chucky has poisoned one of these bowls of chili, but we're kind of focusing on each character and then going around making you suspicious, even with like Alice, that she's
Yeah.
like, oh, this tastes weird. And you're
So
like, oh my god, hopefully Alice didn't get poisoned, but we don't know.
this whole scene was uncomfortable to me because they were just doing close-ups of the lips as they're shoving the damn snot in their mouth. Especially Barbara. Holy crap! She loved it.
Yeah.
She
This is
loved, she
like
was most likely making googly eyes at Jill while she was doing it.
and again, this is like high level suspense for like a Chucky movie that you wouldn't expect. This feels like something that could be even more in a sort of, let's say, an elevated horror thing like Night House or something like that. This level of suspense. But
You
of
wouldn't
course,
need, you couldn't do that in Night House. There's only one character. You'd kill off your character in 5 seconds.
well, not exactly her eating chili, but I'm just saying something with this level of suspense. I'm saying, but we get the clear indicator when the preach has the CGI sweat roll down his forehead, and CGI sweat always means trouble.
Also, I know I'm going to sound like a doo-doo head here. I'm going to sound like a butt face. But when this guy first walked
I
in,
I'll say this: I haven't heard that word said in it since like 1999. So
when the preacher first walked in, Father Frank, my first reaction is Andrew DeVolf.
what? You talking about the Jin from Wishmaster?
Yeah, because I actually saw Andrew DeVolf in a movie with the same hairstyle, same like beard with no anything attached to it, just the yeah. And I'm just thinking, Andrew DeVolf, what the hell are you doing here? And then I found out, no, it's a Ramirez, something, whatever
Let
that
me get
actor's name is.
let me get this straight. You thought the preacher hair looks like Andrew Div? Like I don't think they look
DeVolf
like at
for
all.
one, DeVolf,
Div-
and it was
you thought
literally
he
the
looks like
first.
Robert Duvall? No, I'm playing.
Apparently, Robert Duvall lives in Fairfax County. Uh,
Really? I'm just gonna call Andrew Wishmaster for all future references. You think this guy looks like Wishmaster?
For the first second when he walked in, yes, because you don't get a clear look at his face until you get that one close up when he's talking to Nika.
That would have been a fun Easter egg because I would have if it was the same actor, I would have actually like been like, oh, is he actually the Wishmaster character in this movie? That'd have been a fun Easter egg. But I guess he wouldn't have died the way he died then, though. So
No, they probably would have died after making some kind of Wishmaster joke.
let's talk about his death because it's actually a fun. There's a discipline in not showing him or him leaving the dinner table and being like, I gotta go. Like he senses something is wrong.
Yeah, and the problem is he probably should have just vomited when he realized, like, hey, something's wrong with your food. I'm gonna go vomit real quick.
It feels like the worst thing you could do is like go drive at that point.
Well, he found out.
Well, even crazy, they show it, but they don't like dwell on it. But it's kind of dark. Like he actually killed 2 people, like in a car accident. So originally Mancini wanted to have him like have a car accident with a bus full of people, where a bus full of people died, but they ended up like just narrowing it down to 2 people. But he wanted it to be like a huge kill count for indirectly with Chucky. But that would have been really dark if like he killed a busload of people. But even just killing 2 people here seems pretty dark. So
I don't know how this little car would have been able to kill a bus full of people. Maybe a few people probably seriously injured, but I don't see a whole bus full unless they were on top of a bridge.
Well, they wouldn't have to show that. You would just cut to like the bus being like flipped over somehow. You're like, that little car flipped over this bus? What? I mean, I don't know.
I think they made a smart decision in saying he destroyed a whole nother car along with it.
Now, they find him in a compromised position in the car accident, and the cop is like, get him out of there. Now, my question is the cop responsible for killing him, basically? He's like, get him out of there, and he takes him out, and his head decapitates off.
You know, I feel like even if they waited for paramedics like they should have, even the firefighter told him, like, no. And I don't know why they just went to straight, okay, let's do it. But I feel like it still would have happened because once they pulled that off, they found out what exactly he was actually impaled on. So at that point, it's like I feel like he would have died anyway.
It's a tough call, and I think the cop was a little bit too forward in making the call, but he was pretty much a dead man sipping anyways. So
yeah, but I will say they kind of had to kill him first because he was the one who was starting to get suspicious of Chucky.
Yeah, pretty much. You're right.
Whereas the father was like, yeah, these were all the rage back in the 80s. Like, dude, I remember in the 80s when Chucky was trying to kill a 6-year-old, okay?
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, this is a world basically now where you go on Google and you can find out Chucky's history and all the suspected killings and rumors and things like that. And actually, Nika will do that later in the movie. We do get them watching some home video footage of a picnic with the family.
And Brad Dourif.
Guess who's in the background? Samuel L. Jackson.
Yes.
No. Samuel Jackson's in every movie, so it wouldn't surprise me if he's in this home video. But no, he's not there. It is Brad Dourif looking like a creeper at the picnic.
I mean, to be fair, he still looks like a creeper in real life too.
Yeah, but him wearing the shades in the scene is like extra creepy.
Well, he was too busy just staring at the mom.
What do you think about this? Our original backstory of Charles E. Ray was just like a murderer. But this movie is going to give him like a much darker, creepier background. Like he's like stalking this specific family. And then we find out that the father mysteriously drowned. Now, I'm thinking it wasn't mysterious at all. I think Charles Lee Ray drowned this dude.
I mean, we kind of already knew that. There's the minute you saw him there, and then you heard, oh yeah, their father died mysterious in a drowning. It's like, did he though?
Yeah. Was it really mysterious? I mean,
I don't think it was mysterious at all. I think Charles Lee Ray came up behind him, slammed him in the head with a rock, and let him die.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay. Even though his thing when he was alive was strangling, But they kind of completely took that out of the picture when they show his knife that he had in the first movie that he would not have had in real life.
Well, I guess it's a good time as any. We might as well talk about what they do with Charles' background here in terms of him being somebody who stalks his family, kidnaps the mother
After killing the father.
after killing the father, but they tie into part one in kind of a weird way. Now, remember how part one starts. Part one starts with he's being chased by Detective Mike Norris.
Yes.
This movie is saying that Mike Norris had came to this house where he had the kidnapped mother because she had ratted him out.
Yes.
And then from the house, I guess Mike Norris then chased him all the way to the toy store, and then we get the opening of part one.
Yes.
The problem is, if you remember in part one, he did have a sidekick, that dude Eddie, who left him at the toy store.
Yes.
So where the hell is Eddie in all this? And also his thing with the family, it's like, well, where's Tiffany in all this? Because we also like are led to believe that Tiffany is like here in the picture somewhere too. I don't know. It's kind of like did you buy them tying it into part one that way? Because like,
no, because of one major reason. His whole thing, he was known as a strangler, and also he always went after random women in the street. Granted, I don't know why he needed a sidekick when he was going after random women in the street.
well, remember also at the beginning of part one, Mike Norris actually throws his fake dress in the trash, so he was like undercover. So that doesn't add up with him raiding his house basically, and then chasing the toy store there. So
the whole thing is a giant retcon. It was probably hoping nobody paid attention to that dress being thrown to the side, which, to be fair, no one really did notice when they first watched the movie.
Well, even Chucky, the way he is with the mom when he kidnapped her and the way he's talking to her, it doesn't really seem like Chucky's personality. It seems like kind of a different personality.
It does, because he's sitting there. It sounds like he targets families and does this often, and I'm just thinking, no.
But also it also seems like he loves her in a way. Basically, it's like a psychotic side of Chucky that we haven't seen. Like he's never been psychotic in that way, I feel like.
Well, he even says in this one, it's like, I like families.
Yeah.
Do you though? I mean, you killed plenty of families.
Well, him stabbing a pregnant woman and thus making the child a paraplegic. I'll say this. Not only is that dark, but it makes Chucky a villain again, because the last couple movies did make Chucky kind of like, you almost forget that he's like this horrible villain. This movie puts him square back in this dude is bad. This is a terrible person / doll, I guess, so to speak.
Well, the thing is, the other thing I kind of have an issue is because in the first movie, he had that red squiggly line knife that honestly looked like a toy, probably because it was in the original. And somehow he has it in his human form in this backstory.
True.
As if it's supposed to be a staple. It's like we never saw that knife again after the first movie.
He doesn't actually use a knife that much in general. Like in the series, he usually finds a creative way to kill people. He's not like a big knife guy, I would say. But
I mean, remember, can't stop a classic. You can't kill a classic.
Yep. Is that the line, or are we butchering the line?
I'm butchering the shit out of that line. I can't remember the line. Remember, I'm the only one who does not like that movie.
How classic is the line if we can't even remember the exact words? So, that
line may not be a classic, but he was talking about stabbing people as a classic.
That line's gonna come back in the series again, but yeah. So when we get to that, all right. So the death scenes of this movie are pretty good. You got the nanny being electrocuted.
Which let's talk about when we finally first see Chucky interact with Alice.
Oh yeah.
That was probably the creepiest version of Chucky. He's sitting there like,
and this is It's 45 minutes in when we get the first Chucky laugh, Chucky reel. So the discipline is the whole first half of the movie. Chucky was still in mystery mode, but that first laugh and then that voice, which again, I understand Brad Dourif is older, but yeah, Chucky sounds different in this movie. He's not the Seed of Chucky voice. He speaks slower. He says a lot less in this movie. In fact, it only took Brad Dourif 1 day to record all his lines, so there's only one day's of work. But he speaks slower. He says less, but way more sinister, I would say.
Well, I will also say, Barbara as a mom, she obviously doesn't care about her daughter any, for one major reason. She's they're praying in the bed, getting ready for sleep, and all of a sudden, the little girl Alice asks her, "Are we gonna die, Mommy? Chucky says life's a bitch, and we're all gonna die." And you're telling me, as a mom, you're not taking that doll away?
What the hell? Yeah, I think Barbara or Barb, whatever you want to call her, she's kind of the closest thing to a human villain, I guess, in the movie. Even though, again, given her family's back history, you can maybe sort of empathize with her and her plight. But she does seem like almost like they're going for like the human villain route with her, just in terms of like how she's having an affair with her husband, how she wants to kick her sister out of the home, how she's a terrible mother. Not the best human being, Barbara.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, and then we get, like I said, you mentioned Jill's death. They do a camera shot in this that makes no sense because it's on the camera, on the computer. So Barbara should be seeing what's going straight in front of her, which really, when you see where the wound is happening, she only should be seeing like the side of her face. For some reason, while the camera's glitching out, you see what the actual camera for the movie's pointing at. It's like, when did Jill move the camera over there and still sitting perfectly straight up?
Oh yeah, they took some liberties there for sure. But at least it felt like sometimes electrocution in movies can seem like bullshit, but this seemed like probably like really how an electrocution would actually affect somebody. Like it seemed more realistic, I feel.
I still call bullshit. Who puts a plug on the floor?
Oh, plenty of people.
What's a plug on and I'm not talking about a surge protector that's outside of the wall. I'm talking about an actual outlet on the floor.
Well, I mean, highly irresponsible people for sure do that kind of stuff. I mean, and Chucky was very wise to be like, "Oh, this is gonna be easy kill."
He just knocks over the water that's leaking from the ceiling.
Yeah, but at least it wasn't some like over the top electrocution where it's like the person spazzes out and like flies against a wall or something. So we've seen that in the series also. So
yeah, the only thing is I can't remember the line. That's how unimaginative it was, but it did not sit well with me.
What do you mean?
Oh yeah, it was women. You can't live with them. Period. I'm like,
you don't think that was funny because he was like, it's a full phrase. He's cutting in half though.
Well, yeah,
women. You can't live with them. You can't live without them. But he just said,
well, I know
you
what
can't
it
live
is.
with them. Period. You
but still,
that's right in line. It's right in line with Chucky's character. I mean, he hates women. So.
At this point, I understand what the whole saying was, but then I was just like, really? That's what you came up with? You could have said multiple other things. You could have been like, well, that was shocking.
The line wasn't really relating to Chucky's dialogue in this movie, I would say it's not as sharp as there's not as many classic, I think Chucky's dialogue is probably one of the most important things in each movie. Like, you have to get that right. Like, people want to hear Chucky speak. They want some classic lines, memorable lines. They want quotable things. Not as many quotable, kind of memorable Chucky lines in this movie as the earlier ones. But I think that's also because they want him to be more serious and more feared. So if he talks too much and jabbers on or is too comedic, it kind of, I guess, takes away from the horror. So not as many quotables, but I thought that was in line with, he's always making like anti-women type jokes. So that's kind of in line with that, I feel like.
Nah, still, I wasn't a fan of that line just because like you could have said something better. Maybe something a little bit more sadistic.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Uh,
especially if the power did not go out there, it's like he just gets on camera and goes, or like forces the face on camera.
well, here's the statistic. Him just saying, "I'm gonna get you." I was like, ah. Hey, what's up with Chucky in this movie? Not he's always been like a runner. Like you see him like always like running around and stuff. And this movie he's
Yeah.
like doing a slow Michael Myers walk. Like what the hell? Why? Like there's chase scenes where like he can clearly just run and catch the person, but he's doing like a slow saunter. Like
Horror.
what the hell?
Horror. That's why.
Yeah, but Chucky walking like Jason is like I'm like, huh? Move your ass!
Well,
Come on, what are you doing?
Well, I know I've kind of talked about it. I don't know if you want me to put it here or if you want to just leave it at the beginning, but Barb and Nika having their argument is obviously Nika's trying to tell her put the doll down, while as Barb believes she's talking about the fact that there's a camera inside of Chucky, which is all fine and good. I understand the misunderstanding. What I don't understand is Barbara's account of your accident was not my fault. Your leaving school was not my fault. I'm like, who the fuck said her leaving school was your fault? And also, what accident are you talking about?
Yeah, you're right. What accident?
Because her saying your accident is not my fault makes me think that because before we learned the backstory, we never hear why
What happened? Yeah.
Nika's in a wheelchair. So at that point, I'm thinking, okay, maybe they were drunk one night, being sisters, having fun, and all of a sudden got into an accident with her driving, or something along those lines. Maybe they were kids and they were playing make believe with real knives, and one of the knives ended up in Nika's back.
There's a lot of stuff you could have done. You could have had a flashback to Barb, maybe it was like babysitting her or something like that, and then she fell down the stairs or something like that. If they wanted to go in that direction, they clearly want to go in the direction of Chucky's to blame for everything. So for this with his family, so
Which is fine, but don't have that line of your accident was not my fault. It's like I don't understand what that line was for. Now it's pointless to have that line.
yeah, and I don't understand why Barbara's like just not listening to what Nika's saying. Like she's making it about herself, and like it's a sitcom moment where like you're misunderstanding what the character's saying, but Nika's literally just like put the doll down at one point, and Barbara's just like not listening to that at all, like because
Well,
she thinks that this is all related to the nanny cam, I guess.
yeah.
But
So the exact line from Barbara when she says "put the damn doll down" was "fuck you."
and then she goes to the attic and she finds a knife,
Inside Chucky.
which should be a hint to like pay attention, something's weird going on, and then she also finds peels some of the skin off, and this is where we get the actual reveal now. So this is the moment basically where we figure out that this is the same timeline. Because before we're like, we don't know where this fits in the timeline, but seeing the familiar Bride of Chucky face with the stitches and all that, now we're like, oh, okay, this is the same Chucky.
Same Chucky, same evil desires of wanting to kill women, which I kind of wish that they didn't kill Barbara off so early, because after that spat between her and Nika, would have been nice kind of character development of having the two sisters work together to fight off against Chucky. But no, they decided just to kill Barbara off pretty damn quick.
Well, I thought that Chucky would have, like, he treats Nika very special, but with Barb, he just kind of gives her a very quick, not generic kill, but doesn't seem to like really want to like not. It's weird. It's like he doesn't treat her as like the way he treats Nika. So,
I think with Nika, because when he starts getting a little bit more special with Nika, it's the fact he finds out that she can't feel anything in her legs. So it's more or less, I think it gets off on obviously causing pain, and if she's not feeling pain, well, now she is special to him. How can he make her feel pain?
Yeah. Well, fortunately for Barb, because she has her mother's eyes, she's going to be stabbed in the eyes.
Now that line I kind of liked because it was a little bit more on as I said, the sadistic side. You have your mother's eyes, which indicates to Barb, oh, you knew my family, even though, Chucky already mentioned that Alice, her daughter, is in trouble, and you're
Mhm.
telling me you're not going to kind of break out of your little trance to kick this 2'5" thing across the room and run to find your daughter?
Yeah. I mean, from this point forward, basically, we're mostly gonna have Chucky versus Nika, but we do get. I guess we should address
Ian.
the Ian in the room, which is I think we both agree ends up being the most pointless character. Like
See,
there's nothing to help the cause here at all. So
that's why I say I also would have preferred Barbara throughout some of these scenes over Ian, because Ian is 100% convinced that this paraplegic can't feel anything below her waist woman, who probably doesn't have that much muscle on her in the first place, can somehow continuously go up and down these stairs to kill everybody. Because, and I'm just thinking, what is wrong with you, dude? Your daughter is missing.
Yep.
Now, granted, I will say Nika kind of shot herself in the foot by mentioning that Chucky was the one killing him when when she woke him up asleep. It's like, hey, don't go out there. The killer's still out there.
When he's watching, though, he's watching the footage back on the nanny cam.
Oh yeah, this
the footage to me. The footage to me clearly shows that like Chucky's moving around on his own, but he takes a long time to like come to realization that like the first thing they show is like basically Chucky moving around and looking at things, opening doors and stuff. I'm like, right there is like your indication, but he takes a long time. And then Chucky comes in the room and he even takes a long time to react to that. Like,
well, what's even worse is he's watching the live footage at that point. He should have recognized, oh, that's behind me.
Yeah.
But he's staring at the camera like, who are these people?
And probably the most egregious thing is his actual death scene.
Just
this man just laying on the ground, letting Chucky walk up to him with a axe,
and just nothing about it.
Just lays there in like a sitting duck. I'm like, everybody's gut instinct would be at least to try to move. He didn't even try to move. He just laid perfectly still.
Not true. What? He moved his bottom lip down when he screamed.
Ah, Ian, why did you do this, man? Why? The actor should have been like, so human nature would be like, the survival instinct would be like, either to try to put a hand up to block it or to move out the way. This man did neither. I don't understand. Wouldn't you at least put your arm up?
Well, it's the same with Barbara. She did nothing either. And she literally was told to her face that her daughter is now in serious trouble. You'd think that would have snapped her out of something. It's just like, yeah, I'm going to stab you in the eye now.
Yeah, I guess the idea is always that, like, there's a shock element of, oh my God, the doll's alive. And that freezes you in place to where you're, like, completely can't defend yourself, I guess, is the idea. Yeah, I'd have been in shock for a second, but then I'd have been like, okay, well, you're still a doll with an axe. I mean, I'm going to move out the way or try to block the axe or something. So,
or I'm going to kick you and watch you fly 10 feet in the air.
It's like, buddy, Ian, any reaction would have been better than no reaction. Like, anything you could have done would have been better than the result. Like, jeez.
I mean, if you're going to go down, you might as well go down fighting.
So, Chucky versus Nika. We do get Chucky doing the classic, I have to reveal my motives, give a long-winded speech.
At least this time kind
of flashbacks.
It seems a little easier for him to, at least this time it feels more appropriate for Chucky this time because he's dealing with someone who can't move against him. It's not like this person really can swing a punch on him, because if in order to do that, she needs to give herself the leverage up off the ground too. And he wants to relish in it. He wants to torture her mentally, physically. He wants to tell her everything. Like, he has as you mentioned, he has a special connection to this family. I like what he said about Andy Barclay. He was like, she's like, did you kill him? He's like, I killed his childhood. Actually, pretty much true. Like, yeah. So. Well, yeah, it's true. But then she turns it back on and was like, so you didn't actually kill him? Okay. He's like, what? It's like, you're a guy, right?
Well, she buys herself some time, and the lights come on. She's able to skedaddle into the elevator,
Which I
where
feel
she's gonna
like
have.
Chucky should have actually caught up with her, in my opinion.
Well, like I said, he refuses to like use his legs in this movie. Like we in the first couple movies, we have a lot of evidence of Chucky running around and running fast. In this movie, he's like, I'm gonna do like a long Michael Myers walk. So, but
Well, he does
uh,
charge her at the end when he opens the elevator again.
that just made me laugh though. He just charges her, starts biting her and stuff. It's kind of like a funny. It's a reminder of like
It,
I don't know, but
it's always weird because when you get to this point in the movie and you see his face doing the downwards, he gets that smile across his face, his eyes are kind of twitching, but you can see he's getting enjoyment out of it. Just to get him pretty much doing nothing. Again, I understand if he's a doll, but at the same time, I feel like this would have been the type of character, besides the little girl, that he could actually go toe to toe with, because it's not like the person could stand.
right, yeah. It's kind of an awkward scene because it's like they're fighting, and then basically they cut to like the cops showing up, and then it's like
And then the
Chucky
cop rapes
has
her.
yeah. So Chucky. So actually, I guess I don't know if this is Chucky's plan all along, but it seems like yeah, he wasn't actually trying to kill her. Then he was trying to can just make her life more and more miserable. Now he's gonna like have her framed for the murders and sent to an insane asylum. So
Yeah, well, I don't know. I need to look this up to see if a paraplegic person has killed anyone with a knife. But the fact that the cop automatically does assume, hey, this girl who cannot walk, not able to go up and down stairs, cut out a woman's eye without being overpowered, chopped off a guy's mouth without being overpowered, somehow electrified a whole human being into smoked turkey legs,
hmm.
and you're telling me you can blame a paraplegic person with no real strength in her?
Yeah, but if you're the cop, which is more likely for you to believe, that or her story about a killer doll doing all the murders?
See, she that is where she did mess up, because if I was her, especially after seeing how Ian reacted when she first told him that was Chucky.
Wait. I know what you're gonna say, and I agree. We pin the murders on Alice. She got the rest of her life ahead of her. She can do a
No,
good 20 years and still come out and have the rest of her life. So
no, what they should
we're
have
on the
done.
same page, right? Frame Alice.
No, what she should have done is say someone in a mask, boots, gloves, everything, the whole kit and caboodle came in and tried to kill her. Try to kill her, killed all her family.
It was the strangers. This is the
Yes,
strangers MO, the perfect strangers MO. They
yes.
came
Even
in,
though I
they
hated
held
that movie.
me too, but they held the family hostage, they tortured them, killed them, good to go.
And Nico's the only one who's able to get away because she can't feel anything in her legs.
She played dead, so they thought she was dead, but
Right,
she
and
left.
it kind of does make some sense because the axe, it's not going to have Chucky's fingerprints because, well, he's a doll, he has no fingerprints.
Mm-hmm.
Same with any other kind of weaponry he used, no other fingerprints, so it makes sense the characters would have worn a glove. No, that's all she has to say, and then she could take Chucky home and then burn him alive.
Right. Are you surprised that the delivery guy never came back to the movie? I
I
felt
mean,
like that was a
I assumed he
clear
would have
one.
wanted that ass.
I just felt like they were planning something for him to come back later in the movie. Like it was just kind of interesting. He didn't show back up.
Uh,
Um.
Maybe have
All
him
right.
come in. He's the reason Nika's alive, or she blamed him for the killings.
Well, I was thinking he comes in for the would be save, but then Chucky kills him. Would have been the most predictable thing. I felt like the cop was probably going to be on the death list too, so I was surprised to see him make it out. But anyways, we're gonna try out a new thing, folks. We're gonna go to our categories. I don't know why I said it like that. That sounded like I was trying to.
Categories? I know I'm fat, but still.
I was trying to channel Charles Lee Ray, but it came off like
Uh,
Carrot Top, maybe. I don't know.
I mean, Charles Lee Ray is a Carrot Top.
Oh yeah.
Standout performance.
Thank you, Candyman. Candyman Ocarina. Just stay away from the mayor, right? Just don't say Candyman the mayor 5 times anytime soon. All right. I don't want to have to find a new co-host because you then got yourself killed by Candyman. So
hey, careful. Apparently, if you've watched some of these, apparently the camera does count as a reflection.
Candyman's coming out. He's coming to get you just to be like, listen.
You got to do the voice a little different.
Yeah, they can't be two of us out there doing the voice.
You
all right, now
the voice.
No, it's good. It's good. I like it. All right, so for me, I guess this is going to be predictable, but I feel like you got to go with Fiona Dorff. I mean, she's the protagonist. She does a good job. This is her second role where she played a paraplegic, so she actually was very comfortable in that kind of role, and I sympathized with her. I got behind her character. I wanted her to defeat Chucky. This is not a movie where I was on Chucky's side. I was definitely on the protagonist side, which is your goal for a good protagonist is to get them to a point where you cheer for them over the killer. There's been some movies where I cheered for Jason, cheered for Freddy, definitely cheered for Leprechaun. This movie, I'm cheering for Nika, so props to her.
See, just because I can't give the same answer as you, because I do agree with all those points. Fiona is the better actress in this whole movie.
You could, but if you want to be a contrarian, go ahead. What are you thinking?
I'm thinking Brad Dourif as Charles Lee Ray.
You're thinking Alice was a great child actor in this one.
I'm thinking Brad Dourif as Charles Lee Ray, not Chucky. Charles Lee Ray.
the 2-minute flashback. You're giving him best performance based on 2 minutes.
You know why? Because because this is, to be fair, this is the first time, at least watching the Chucky movies, first time you see him on camera actually acting, and he gives that crazy look to the mom the whole time. It's like, you don't want to share me with your family? It's like, you can see the anger just building and building. You can see the crazy in his eye. It definitely shows that he is, as a physical portrayal, of a good actor as well.
Yeah, he does do a great job in those few minutes of convincing us that he's a freaking psychopathic killer / other things too. So, okay, fair answer. All right, let's go to our next category, Nick Arcana. What you got?
Favorite scene.
Well, I gotta say, I do think that soup scene for me is like just suspenseful enough to hit the spot. So maybe the chili didn't hit the spot for the preacher, but the scene hit the spot for me. I keep calling it soup, but it's definitely chili.
So you're going with the soup scene. I will go with the scene we didn't actually talk about, and that's in the garage. Yeah, it's shorter than the soup scene, and it's not really adding suspense per se, but it has the intensity of, Nika trying to get into the car, trying to break through the car so she can stop the car from revving any longer, stop Chucky from suffocating her with the exhaust fumes. And then just the whole scene was played well by both Nika and the voice acting of Brad Dourif. That scene is also a pretty fun scene for a child. It's a pretty fun scene.
Where's the Code Red Mountain Dew when you need it?
I think it's also the beard. I took off the beard. Now I took out my brains. What were they thinking?
This movie doesn't have too many moments for me that are like, what the hell? But I already talked about it. But freaking Ian, his death scene could have been done so much better. I feel like maybe what they should have done is had Chucky maybe get Ian with like some kind of tranquilizer, or like that the thing that Nika needs to take, the shot. Mm-hmm. Maybe somehow that gets like injected into Ian's throat or something like that. But something where maybe he's like on the ground, but he's actually like can't move for a reason. Because him just laying there and taking that axe to the tongue Although made for a funny one-liner from Chucky, it just made me think his whole character was pointless.
So, unfortunately, I actually have nothing to give except for Ian as well. I guess more or less it's technically what were they thinking in letting Ian survive for so long versus Barbara? And
Yeah.
Barb, it feels like Chucky would have had more stakes with Barb than Ian. And it also seems like there was that feud between Barb and Nika that they could have tried to close that kind of story before the actual climax of the movie. I mean, I
Yeah.
understand she still needs to die in order for Cult of Chucky to happen, but we still could have gotten something where Barb and Nika team up to fight against Chucky. So that would be what my
Maybe
thing would be.
move Barbara towards being more likable, basically. Give her like an arc where she starts off as like almost like a villain, but then slowly she becomes a better sister by the end and they have a better relationship.
And then she dies.
Yeah.
Because
Maybe
again,
she sacrifice herself, maybe so.
yeah, but again, she needs to die in order for Cult of Chucky to work. Or they both are in the insane asylum.
Yeah, the ending of this movie does kind of feel like it's too much like the early movies always had definitive endings. This feels like they're too much like setting up like a new universe and new like sequels versus having like a self-contained ending. It didn't feel like the story's clearly not complete here, and I don't really like that in movies per se. Typically, when you don't give like a conclusive ending, it'll be a bigger problem for being cold. But yeah. All right. Next category.
Okay. Okay.
Needed more focus.
You know, at the end of the movie, Alice kind of disappears. I feel like you could have done more with Alice at the end. Maybe Alice helps Nika somehow. Like, I feel like the character of Alice, as we'll find on the next movie too. My God, what a horrible. First of all, both her parents are killed here.
Both her
That's one
parents are
thing about
killed. We find out at the end her grandma gets killed, and presumably Chucky takes her over.
It's like, holy cow! Like, has anybody in this universe gotten a more raw deal than poor Alice? Jeez, come on, Chucky, give the kid a break. I mean, God.
Well, no, but I do agree. I think Alice could have been in the movie a little bit more because think about it. There's no way that little girl did not hear. Well, wait a minute. Chucky locked the door, didn't she? Was in a closet. Chucky locked the door, didn't he?
Yeah, okay, I get it, but
okay, so she couldn't get out. Well, then I'm gonna have to change mine.
I feel like it would have been made sense for her to come in for the save or help out at the end, but I guess they weren't going for like a happy ending though, so I guess it makes sense that she couldn't be involved. But I think you could have done more with her than you did. But yeah, that's really my only thing. Everything else is pretty well explored, in my opinion. So.
Mine is, again, it's just one line, but it's a line that irks me, and that is Barb saying, "Your accident was not my fault." Because now I'm wondering, okay, now that I've seen the whole movie, what accident are you talking about?
Because there was no accident. Yeah, she was born that way. She was born that way because of Charles E. Ray stabbing her mom. So
right, but it makes me wonder, like, what is 100% the friction? Because there was friction even before Barbara was bringing up selling the house, because you could see it in Fiona's eyes, or you can see it in Nika's eyes that there was already friction between them.
Yeah.
So what caused the friction? What is this accident you're talking about? Because it's obviously not her being paralyzed, unless there was an earlier draft and that line just did not get cut out.
It sounds like you would have liked to seen the family dynamic be explored more.
Yeah,
a little bit. Yeah, fair. Well, all right.
Okay, ready for this last one? It's going to be a doozy.
All righty, let's do it.
What would you recommend?
I would recommend I would recommend Curse of Chucky. Spoiler for next week. Spoiler for the next episode. I think that they did a great job of bringing it back to its horror roots. It's the creepiest, scariest one probably since the first movie. It actually has suspenseful scenes. Chucky's underplayed, which works for this movie better. He's not Freddy's dead Chucky. He's Chucky from like the first movie. I like Fiona Dorff as a protagonist. I did think the ending kind of was too busy setting the universe, but it was fun to see also Andy Barclay in the post-credit scene as well. That was a fun scene. So like the death scenes, again, they did a lot with the budget. $5 million, it feels like a bigger movie. So I would definitely recommend Curse of Chucky.
And as for me, I also recommend it. It is definitely one of those movies that is more up my alley than Bride of Chucky or Seed of Chucky. It is one of those movies that it's suspenseful. It knows when to add. It knows when Chucky needs to speak. It knows when Chucky needs to be villainous or stale. You know, when he's a doll. All the actors and actresses all did a damn good job. Even Ian's dumbass.
I don't blame the actor. I just blame the.
Well, no, I blame the writing, but still.
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah, overall, I do recommend this movie. It is a good addition to the franchise, especially knowing it is a sequel and not just a remake.
Well, we'll be finishing up next week with Cult of Chucky, so look to that. And in the meantime, as some parting words, if you're hosting a dinner, do not make chili the main dish. Serve something else and have chili as the side dish, or have some accompanying hot dogs to go with the chili.
And as always, you don't have to go home, but you do got to get yourself a redneck mug.
Where can you get that from? Amazon?
Probably.
Yeah.
I have no idea. Stole it from my wife.